Welcome back to another Wecruit video. So this week we've just had a new trainee recruitment consultant, Brooke, start. So you'll see me taking her through some of her first few days, some training sessions, and just sort of mentoring and helping her get up to the level that she needs to be. You'll also see me go through some more continued development with Will, so that he can get comfortable sort of speaking with candidates, calling clients, getting his recruitment process under the way. I've also got lots of submissions that I sent across last week that I'd like to get converted into interviews, and the ones that have been interviewed, you'll see me run through some interview preparation ahead of their interview and obviously get their feedback following the interview. Any that did, sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that have gone through had the good first interview, you'll then also see me getting them booked in for their second and potentially even meeting prep for their second interview as well. So lots of exciting things ahead, and I hope you enjoy. Yeah, worth a little call, yeah, like you say. Okay, cool. We also had the remote-based financial advisor role come out from it's a very sort of confusing role, but quite a good one at the same time. Salary up to 40. It's a remote-based role with face-to-face client meetings where necessary. This is a brand new role, brand new sort of division within. So they're looking for the first couple of financial advisors to potentially have some sort of leadership and management once they're up and running. So it is a good role for somebody who is seeking that sort of management type position. Obviously when they first come in they're going to be building it, so it's not going to be management to start with, but there is that sort of scope once they are in. They're really desperate to build this team, and they're going to work in hand with their financial education team as well, so it's quite an exciting role, worth definitely having a read over, and obviously giving a call if you've got anyone. Cool, speak to you all in a bit. Bye. Hi Simon, it's Dylan calling from Premier Jobs UK, how are you? It's just a quick question really. I've got your email come through, so thank you very much for sending me your availability. They have come back to invite you for an interview this morning, and they've said that Wednesday works between 11 AM and 4 PM. Obviously you've put for the Wednesday for just PM, so are you happy for me to get booked in for say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? Yeah, should I try and get it booked in for 2 o'clock? Would that work? Yep, okay, perfect. As soon as I've got a confirmed time, I'm sure that they will also forward you over the details of the role in form of an invitation, but I will also send you over an email which will have all the information that you need to know, date, time, everything like that. Alright? Not a problem at all. Cheers for your time. Bye. Bye. So what another fantastic day today has been. I just got some feedback from a client which one of my candidates has had their first and second interview with. The client thought that they came across very, very well, and it will be preparing an offer. So obviously wanted my sort of initial opinion as to what that offer should look like. Also given me some sort of availability for that third and final stage, which will be the face-to-face, more of a formality than a sort of decision making, obviously, but there is some documents that need to be sent over in the meantime, but fantastic news there. I've also got 2 other meetings booked in for this week, which is fantastic getting booked in so quickly. So obviously just speaking with the candidate to make sure that works and getting that all booked in and arranged. We've also obviously had a Brooke start. She's doing very, very well today, taking down some good notes, asking some good questions. So hopefully in the coming weeks you'll see her doing very well and getting some of her own submissions off as well. So yeah, another fantastic day, hopefully more to come. So I've just received a text message from one of my candidates to say that they're not going to be able to arrange one of the interviews that I've arranged for them today due to some unfortunate circumstances with their sort of family background, which is completely understandable, and I've gone back to say that that's not a problem at all. They've given me some alternative dates for another interview, which is fantastic because it genuinely means that obviously they want to get it rebooked. So I'll go back to the client now, just to explain the situation, explain that they're not going to be able to attend today, and then just propose Thursday this week for a alternative date, and see if that just works with them and their diary. And if it does, then just reschedule it, get the interviews rebooked, and go through the prep then on Wednesday instead of this morning. So yeah, that's not a problem at all. Obviously we'll just go out to the client now. So just gone back and forward again here now with text messaging the candidate, and that just again, I've added him on WhatsApp, I've messaged him on there, and he finds that a lot more convenient. He can message me now just before 8 o'clock, and doesn't feel like he needs to pick up the phone and sort of explain anything to me. He can just drop me a text message, and he knows I'm sort of then working in the background to get the interview rearranged. So it just sort of gives you a highlight of the different sort of methods we can take if we needed to get in contact with you or the client, whichever's easiest and sort of most convenient. So that's me there, just clearing my inbox this morning, getting all the stuff that I might have left from yesterday afternoon in there. That's all cleared now. I've gone back to clients, gone back to candidates. I've got just an interview then arranged. Obviously I also dealt with the candidate who messaged me, so that's all done now. Now I'm just going to jump into a training session with Brooke to hopefully get her up and running. So I've just jumped off a candidate call where I was running through some interview prep ahead of their interview for today at 2 o'clock. So I was just sort of covering off a few points, and it made me think that actually potentially some of the candidates and viewers watching this could benefit from just understanding how myself as a recruitment consultant could help you in your interview process, specifically with preparing for interviews. So I've just got a couple of points I wanted to touch upon. So firstly, anything to prepare from the client, so whether that's a presentation or documents to fill in, or specific pieces of research that they've asked to be done for the interview. Obviously I can be that sounding board, I can be that second opinion. For example, we've got a client has one of their interview stages is typically a presentation, and what they like for candidates, what candidates like to do is send across their draft of their presentation to myself, who has had many candidates go through the process with this company, and I can then give them tips and advice as to how to make that presentation just one step higher, one step better, in terms of giving them the best possible chance of going through to the next step. With that, there's also sometimes that there could be a project that has been assigned. Again, I can be that second opinion, and it's just good for candidates to have somebody to send it to get a second opinion, to say, actually I think you should add some more photos into your presentation, for example. And obviously if you're not working with a recruiter, you may have somebody else that you can send that to, and that's fine. But the benefit of a recruitment consultant and myself is I work with that specific client quite a lot. I see a lot of people go in to do that presentation, so I get feedback every time about what was good and what was bad about that presentation, and then I can use that feedback to improve the next candidate's presentation. The next thing is preparing questions for an interview. Now, lots of people prepare questions in their head, or maybe they write it down on a notepad, and it's just good to have somebody to ask that question to. Is this a silly question? Is this something I should be asking? And again, as a consultant, I work with these clients quite a lot, so some of the questions I may also know the answer to. So if I know the answer to it, I may as well just answer that for them, and then prompt them to ask alternative questions that may give them a better insight into the company. Also, I have a really good piece of information I give to all of my candidates, in that if, when you're in an interview, all of your questions are answered, what is best when typically, I've been an interviewer myself, and we always do it at the end, do you have any questions? Now, if through the interview, the interviewer has answered all of your questions, you won't actually have any questions at that point. And the worst thing you can do is then try and find a question that just shows you haven't prepared, you haven't thought of any questions prior, and you're now just sort of scrambling your brain for a question because you don't want to be that person that says, no, I don't have any questions. Alternatively, it's almost as bad saying, no, I don't have any questions. So my piece of advice for candidates at that stage is always, instead of saying, no, I don't have any questions, you can say, I did actually have questions. I had questions about X, Y, and Z. However, you've been fantastic and you've answered them all throughout the conversation. So at this stage now, I don't have any further questions to ask. Obviously, if I do have any other questions that I think of in the meantime, I can obviously get in touch with you via email or telephone to ask those. Moving on from that, a very, very big point that I can help with candidates that potentially the anxiety around interviews may make this point go amiss, and that is commuting, parking, and that sort of thing. So for an example, I had a candidate not that long ago that was having an interview in London, and it was through the time where the trains were on strike. Now, as a result of that, he didn't realise, he wasn't too big on watching the news and things like that, so he didn't really know that much was going on. He worked from home, so he didn't have to commute daily, and therefore, when I'd arranged that interview for him, he didn't realise that the trains were on strike, and he was planning on getting the train. Now, in my interview prep with him, I said to him, how are you going to get to your interview today? And he said, oh, I'm going to get the train in 3 hours' time. Now, I said to him, are you aware that the trains are actually on strike now? So you might struggle to be able to get that train. And he didn't realise, and we were able to then preempt him being late for it due to the trains being on strike, and he actually just drove. Which, again, it may seem like such a simple point, however, with the whole, you're prepping all these questions, you're prepping maybe a presentation, you've got so much to think about for an interview that potentially such the smallest point of can I actually get the train in time can slip your mind. As well as parking, if you are driving there, is there parking? How much does parking cost? How far away is the parking? Are you going to need to walk, and what might that walk look like for you? It's all questions that I can help with. I can speak with a client and get those answers if I don't know, but also it's just somebody to get confidence in, because I know myself that sometimes I've Googled it and I think that I know where they are and I think I know where I can park, but actually if somebody else just told me, no, they've said specifically you need to park here and park, and it costs this much, I'd be much more sort of reassured. Finally, the last point is obviously just basic research, checking out their website, things like checking their Trustpilot, their Google reviews, things like that. Just preempting, as a consultant, preempting the candidate to go away and do a little bit more research on that sort of side of things. It really, really helps, because it means, obviously if you haven't had the chance to do it and I remind you 2 hours before your interview when we're going through some prep, you'll then straight off the call and straight on their website, you've then checked out their Trustpilot or their Google, and then when you're sat in the interview and say, oh, what have you learnt about us? You have learnt something because you've gone to their website, potentially they've got 5-star rated on Trustpilot or something, and then that could be a good point when you're in your interview to say that, because it shows that you've done the research, because you wouldn't know that they're 5-star rated just by quickly Googling them. You'd have to look at Trustpilot, you'd have to put their name in and do that little bit of research. So I hope that obviously this little bit has been helpful, and obviously this is a very short list. It's not limited to that. Sometimes interview prep calls can go on for quite a while. Sometimes people are confident in their ability and they don't need to have interview prep. So sometimes it won't happen at all. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3 minutes just to check in to see, are you still good to go today? Yeah, okay, brilliant. But yeah, that's just how I approach that, and I'm sure that other recruitment consultants at other companies will also do this as well. So what another fantastic week this week has been. It's been a slightly different week than perhaps last week or the week before, in that I've had less sort of candidates coming to me and answering when I've been sort of calling them. However, I've had a lot more busier on the other end, where candidates I'm already dealing with already had interviews, that sort of thing. So I've been booking in a lot of interviews this week, and there's also been 2 or 3 sort of offers sort of going about. There was one that I had to sort of negotiate back and forward. So yeah, very, very positive. week, very proactive, but slightly different than some other weeks. And that's just sort of how recruitment goes, where sometimes it's really busy, sometimes it's not really busy, and you just sort of have to improvise and sort of go from there. We've also obviously had Brooke start this week. She's doing really, really well. So hopefully from next week, we can continue building on that development, building on that training, with the scope for in a couple of weeks' time for us to be speaking with some of our own candidates as well, which is obviously fantastic. Next week, hopefully more of the same, lots more sort of meetings going in, hopefully lots more placements, and yeah, let's just sort of see how that goes.